Greetings once again. Thanks for joining me for Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. I really appreciate you joining me week after week after 5 years of this stuff. And it's sort of like a time capsule in some ways of music, new music that comes out every week and shows up in the store. Some people say, hey, you ramble too much. Can we snap this along and get things moving and rolling? Which I definitely did last week on the Costello review, not going to lie. And unfortunately, I ran out of it before like people could really say, hey, I'd like to buy that. And then there are other people who say, oh, you could talk all day and I would be okay with that. It's just funny how I look around on some of these YouTubers and their channels and how they have like 6,000 views, 10,000 views within like 24 hours, and my humble like few hundred every week. I'm okay with that. I don't really want to be out there on a grand scale. I can see how sometimes being on a grand scale can actually be a detriment. I'm kind of happy with where things are, and thank you for supporting us week after week. I really appreciate that. All right, so I usually start these with the biggest new release of the week, money wise, size wise, whatever. There's not a box set per se this week, but there is a jazz 3 LP jazz set from Kenny Burrell with Art Blakey on drums. Kenny, very renowned jazz guitarist, and this is on view at the Five Spot Cafe, the Complete Masters, part of the Blue Note Tone Poet series. This is mastered from the original analog tapes, contains never before released tracks, has never before seen photos, an essay by Sid Schwartz, and a new interview with Kenny Burrell. This was mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio, as all of the Tone Poets are. Like I said, 3 LPs here. So it is a little bit more expensive than the regular Tone Poets. This features also Tina Brooks on sax, tenor sax, Bobby Timmons and Roland Hanna on piano, Ben Tucker on bass, and like I said, Art Blakey on drums. So I think it's a really important document, and it's cool that they put that out on a 3 LP set. So if you want that, you're going to have to probably ask me, because I'm not going to have like a bunch of extra lying around, as it's not cheap. It is under $100, but okay. And then another sort of big release this week, the new album from Goose, and it's quite a cover there. I love it. It sort of reminds me of like those old Tom Tom Club album covers. This is their new album, Everything Must Go, and this is a 3 LP 180 gram magenta eco mix limited edition vinyl, and I heard it runs over an hour and a half long, so 3 LPs. A lot of people were talking about Goose in the last couple years. They would come and ask me, hey, you got any Goose on vinyl? And I was always out of it because it would always sell out. And so it's good that they have a new one. They had some internal band strife and have kicked out a couple of members, or they left under duress or something, but they're still going strong. So as a newer, slimmer Goose, and that sounds really weird. And fortunately, their problems don't seem to be quite as severe as the band New Pornographers and their problems this week with their drummer. Like, like that's a self-writing joke right there, unfortunately, when your name of your band sort of reflects what's going on with your drummer that you've had for the last decade. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but hey, if Arcade Fire can still put out records, people can rise from the ashes, I guess. But that's probably, my prayers are that the band Nico and AC do really well and rise from this, and whether they do just solo work at this point or whatever. But it's really kind of a shame that the drummer's actions sort of impacted everybody in that band. This is people who don't really think about how they influence others in the world, I guess. Ghost, got to get on to new releases now. Ghost, their new album Skeleta. This is a very cool cover, by the way. This is Indie record store exclusive, includes violet vinyl and collectible Papa V overlay. Papa 5. Anyway, Skeleton is the name of the album. Peacified, Lacrima, Satanized, you get the picture. Sort of like, yeah, they're kind of pop metal, I suppose, but I just love the artwork, though. I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, they definitely have their fan base. Here's an album that I've been like waiting for, and I can't wait to hear this. I heard like the couple first singles, and I thought they were great. The new Viagra Boys album called Viagra Boys. Viagra Boys. Viagra Boys, basically a Swedish kind of punk pop band, I guess, with an American lead singer. Do I call him a singer? He's more of a satirist, and I know he sings, but he's got more of a gravelly tone, kind of is going for a gruff tone type thing. Anyway, this contains dream-inducing blue and white marble vinyl. So this is the limited version. I always love their artwork, and they're just a great sort of irreverent, very like, I suppose, politically motivated and sort of very observational about what's going on in the world in very satirical ways, self-deprecating ways, very like to the point. I think one of the first lines on this album lyrically is something about Chandler Bing dying in a pool, which is sort of like pretty still pretty raw to be going there about Matthew Perry, but yeah. So anyway, Viagra Boys, new record. Billy Idol, new record this week. This is the much talked about Dream Into It. This is the limited edition purple vinyl. It features 2 duets. John Wayne with Alison Mosshart of the Kills, I believe. And also Dead Weather. And Wild Side featuring Joan Jett. So anyway, Billy's new record, 9 tracks. This is on Dark Horse Records, George Harrison's old label that's been resurrected. So Billy looking mighty gruff there. Anyway, how old is William Broadus now? He's got to be pushing 70, but still pretty iconic. Okay, this is pretty cool here. Samantha Fish, and blues guitarist, her new album, Paper Doll. And the early ones here we have are actually autographed. The indie record store exclusive, there's a signed art print limited to 500 on clear smoke vinyl. So these are going to go fast, and we won't have them long. So enjoy them in the video while you can, because you won't see them for very long. Stereophonics and their new album, Make 'Em Laugh, Make 'Em Cry, Make 'Em Wait. And this is on limited edition Coke bottle green vinyl. And Stereophonics, British band. They've been around for like 20 years, I guess. Produced and written and arranged by Kelly Jones, the lead singer. And yeah, if you're into like a lot of those sort of 90s, early 2000s British bands, you should check them out. I saw them live maybe 20 years ago, but they're out there touring again. So has it been that long? Maybe it has. Another new release this week from somebody who has been around for a while, Willie Nelson. And yes, another new album from Willie. This is Oh What a Beautiful World. Gosh, Willie's got to be what, 92, 93 now? Willie sings Rodney Crowell songs, the new studio album featuring his interpretation of 12 Rodney Crowell tunes, Banks of the Old Bandera, Open Season on My Heart, and a duet with Willie and Rodney on the title track. So, I don't know. Willie's looking like he's ready to head to pasture there or something. So, I don't know if that's him in the picture or not, honestly. Artist rendering. Okay. Sunflower Bean and their new record, Mortal Primetime. And this band kind of came out of nowhere, broke out like 5, 6, 7 years ago. and they're still doing well. I just keep like thinking, oh, they're gonna really get huge, and I don't know. But this is their new one. This is numbered of 3,000, red transparent vinyl with a bonus 12-inch too, no less. And it's what, 10 songs? Yeah, 10 songs. Um, Sunflower Bean. Okay, and another band that I've always liked, and I keep hoping that they're gonna break big, and they kind of it must be sort of like not disconcerting, but you have a cult following that sort of likes you and follows you wherever you go, and you just can't seem to like either make a ton of money or enough money to keep going, or you just choose to do other things. So, Face Down in the Garden, the new album from Tennis, and they're a married couple. This is an indie exclusive with Eggshell Vinyl. Uh, I've really liked their albums. They're very kind of charming and sort of breezy, summery kind of sounding. I can't remember the lead singer's name, but she's got a really beautiful voice. And it's just kind of fun, summery, like light. But they say that this is it. They're stopping doing music after this album. I don't know if they decided to get real full-time day jobs, or if they're going into like behind the scenes or writing for others, or what exactly they're doing. But I think they're tired of sort of slogging it out on the road all the time. Maybe they've got a family or something that they want to pay attention to, which is highly possible too when you're a married couple like that. So, but they met out in Colorado at school, and I think they had something to do with also taking like a boat trip together in like North Carolina or something. Fueled their romance, and then they became this a couple. I mean, unless there's bad things going on in the background that we don't know about. I mean, we sort of saw that recently with Jason Isbell and Amanda Shires. So who knows? I think sometimes being a married couple and being together all the time, it can also be sort of like rough on a relationship. Speaking as someone who works with their wife, although she's not here anymore because of her illness, but she still is obviously in my life. So I think maybe in some ways it can go either way. Sometimes it can help your relationship. You get closer together. Sometimes you become antagonistic. So spending all that time together. So anyway, I wish Tennis well. I hope whatever they decide to do, and it's a shame that they weren't a little more supported by the public, I suppose. But they got their name out there for a while. Simple Minds and their new live record, Live in the City of Diamonds. It's a great cover too. It's not so shiny, but it is really cool texture, almost like the ball that they drop on New Year's. And quite an extensive track list here. Everything from Waterfront, Suns and Fascination, Promised You a Miracle, Someone Somewhere in Summertime, She's a River, Glittering Prize, New Gold Dream, Don't You Forget About Me, of course, Alive and Kicking, and Sanctify Yourself. Probably a bit of a soundtrack to the live tour that they're doing across the U.S. this summer, along with Soft Cell and the reunited Modern English are opening for them. So they'll be in Philly in June. Okay. Blur's The Magic Whip. It's the 10-year anniversary of this. They just did a Zoetrope record of this for Record Store Day. And now here we get a special cover 10th anniversary version of this with all new artwork. I really love this album. It's half speed mastered gold vinyl. I think this was one of my top 5 records the year it came out. It was really, really great. And funny how Damon, who's in Gorillaz, also sort of kind of poo-pooed this album a little bit and said, oh, it's just made up of extra stuff, da-da-da, whatever. And it's a really great album. And I know Graham Coxon took the tapes and kind of put the record together, mostly the guitar player, who's now in the Wave with his wife or girlfriend. I don't want to say if it's his wife if she's not. But Rose Eleanor Dugal. So anyway, this was a great album, I thought, and it had very catchy stuff like Ong Ong, and also New World, Towers, Go Out. Those were kind of catchy songs. I Thought I Was a Spaceman. I Broadcast was great. So I don't know. Ghost Ship is very dreamy. I really like that record. So 10th anniversary. Half Speed. Imagine Dragons and a new record. This is sort of a, I think, I don't know what this is actually from. It's from the Vault of Smoke and Mirrors. So I guess it's sort of like extras from that or something, or redos. Reflections is the name of the album. They're all like demo versions of album Smoke and Mirrors. So if you're into Imagine Dragons, you might want to check this out because these are like the working versions before it became a final album that we know today. A cool reissue here from Andy Summers of The Police and Robert Fripp of King Crimson. When they did an album together way back in the early 80s, Summers Fripp. I Advance Masked, a new 2024 mix of the 1982 collaborative album. Includes 2 previously unreleased tracks on 200 gram vinyl. I can't remember. I think a lot of this was sort of instrumental or mostly instrumental. I'm not really sure. Never really listened to this album, so, but yeah, it looks like it's probably all instrumental. Anyway, Summers Fripp. So for those fans interested in prog, Gary Newman and a reissue of his album Berserker. I think when this album came out back in the day, it was considered a pretty big flop. He'd already had Cars as a hit, and his career sort of went down from there because I think Gary really didn't understand why people weren't listening to his music, and the public weren't really understanding why Gary was changing so much. So it was kind of a different thing. It's like he was going more new romantic when people were sort of drifting away from that. You know, Duran Duran were kind of becoming much more of a like a arena pop band or something. So after starting as New Romantic. So anyway, same with Spandau Ballet. This is newly remastered 2 LP black vinyl, including 5 bonus tracks. So it's a kind of a poppy 80s electronic album, but with the weirdness of Gary, which is great because he brings sort of a different vibe to things. And I think a lot of people miss this album. I don't think it was really like marketed by his label at the time very well. They didn't know what to do with it. And so anyway, it's called a rediscovery is what that is. Sex Pistols and a live record, live in the USA, Winterland Ballroom, San Francisco, January 14th, 1978. They've been doing this series of 3 live shows that they did in the US that year. And, well, they didn't play very many live shows. As you can imagine, the Sex Pistols, pretty caustic on stage and probably tough to keep them together. It's like bringing the Rats together and seeing if they can, like, get along, you know. So anyway, live Sex Pistols. And also there is a CD version of that collects all 3 of them. So it's kind of in a nice little packet, sort of a triple concert thing. All right, let's see. Oh, Wasp, The Last Command, another in the Wasp reissues. I think we got Crimson Idol recently, and now this one, Blackie Lawless. Limited edition black and yellow, Wasp color vinyl, 40th anniversary. Oh, this was the Record Store Day UK version. So I guess they decided to make a few more and then bring it over to the US. So there is that. Someone might be interested in that. I don't know. Rilo Kiley and a reissue of their album, The Execution of All Things. Rilo Kiley are doing reunion shows this summer with Jenny Lewis. And let's see, this is Frozen Lake edition, limited edition of 3,000 with a 7-inch, featuring Jenny, You're Barely Alive, Emotional, Until Crickets Guide You Back, and After Hours, with poster insert on cloudy, transparent, and cream vinyl. And it's got this cool sort of cutout face too. I don't know if you can see that at all, but it is like cut out. Yeah, so Rilo Kiley, they sort of broke up when Jenny's solo career started taking off, and decided to sort of tie up some old loose ends there. Train, a reissue of their self-titled album called Train. This is the first thing I think they sort of officially put out, and I don't think it's ever been. It's on vinyl for the first time. This is the one with Meet Virginia. So I don't know. Some people like to deride Train a little bit, but I think back at the beginning they weren't so bad. You know, it was like Pat had a good voice. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, laminated denim, the Lucky Rainbow Wax Edition. This is part of that 3 albums I think they put out maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And yeah, there's the cover. I'm not going to pull out the whole record and everything, but this one has been sort of out of print for a little while. So they brought it back. It was probably the least selling of the 3 albums that they had at that time. What was that? That was the time where they had the Ice Death Planets one, and I think Changes was the other. Those were the 3. And Omnium Gatherum came out earlier that year, so I guess there were actually 4. But anyway, this was sort of like 2 long tracks, I believe. Anyway, it's been a while since that's been out, so if you're a King Gizzard fan, you know what that is. And of course, I would be remiss without ordering Whipped Cream and Other Delights from Herb Alpert. And this is a 60th anniversary picture disc version of this, I think. Yeah, it's a picture disc of this spinning around on your turntable. My dad had this record when I was a kid. This was my first introduction to, ooh, ladies are pretty. And then, of course, you find out that she's actually sitting in shaving cream, not whipped cream. So when she's licking it, it's like, oh, that poor woman. And she's also pregnant. So there are a couple of things that work there. But it's a classic from Herb. Made him a ton of money. Started A&M Records after that. All right. There was a 7-inch that came out this week. Archbishop Harold Holmes from Jack White. It's part of the recent No Name album series that he did. And I think there's 2 versions of this on here. A live one and the studio one. As far as CDs go, Sting 3.0 live. This was a Record Store Day record. It's on CD also with the tracks from the live show. Let's see. You got Vicky Peterson and John Cowsill. Vicky from the Bangles. And this is their Long After the Fire record, which is sort of like 2 people who want to do an album together. Anyway, that sounded really random too. Rammstein, Sehnsucht, and Mutter are both back on CD with these kind of cool slipcase covers. So get your Du Hast. And yeah, so Rammstein, always sort of popular. Anthony Gomez, guitarist, blues guitarist, kind of heavier. Praise the Loud is the name of it. You can kind of tell from his guitar there and the grimace on his face. This is on Rat Pack Records. Joan Osborne is back with Dylanology, an album of Bob Dylan covers live, featuring Amy Helm, Jackie Green, and Robert Randolph. And she covers Spanish Harlem Incident, Highway 61, Rainy Day Women, etc., etc. High Water for Charlie Patton. It looks like there might be a fair amount of blues riffing on this too, because like I said, Robert Randolph is on it, and it's only 8 tracks, so it's got to be either fairly long or a lot of riffing. Southern Avenue, this is their new album. They're kind of a blues, like soul blues group, 3 ladies and a guy playing guitar. So yeah, that's their new record. I think it's just called, it's called Family. This is coming out on vinyl in a couple of weeks. Masters of Reality and their new album, The Archer. I think this is fairly long awaited for some people, but it's out on CD. And finally, Harold Budd, and this is Clive Wright with Harold Budd. A Song for Lost Blossoms. This is a reissue on CD. They also reissued his album Candy Lion. The reason this came out in 2008, one of the reasons I mentioned this is Harold Budd is a sort of a ambient composer, and the first track on here, Persephone, Pensive Aphrodite. Yeah, I said Persephone. Pensive Aphrodite, 32 minutes and 15 seconds long. I found that song is a perfect song to go to sleep to every night. So I've been playing that a lot. It's very drifty, and it just kind of like, it goes for just long enough to put you to sleep, but it's beautiful. And you can actually listen to it and stay awake the whole time too, but there's no singing. It's just Harold's ambient keyboards and Clive's beautifully plucked guitar, very like mellow. And it's like constantly shifting. It's very in the Brian Eno sort of category of things. One story I have about Harold Budd real quick was my music composition teacher in college, Hanley Jackson, rest his soul, Kansas State University. He had worked or been a student and then worked as a grad student and young professor, I believe, at University of Long Beach in North Carolina. And Harold Budd was one of his like co-students there, like part of the group of, he was a peer. And I don't know, there might have been a fair amount of jealousy, I think, from Hanley, because he saw Harold putting out records and doing things with Brian Eno, but the music was very like soft and there wasn't like a lot of structure or stuff in it. And he told me once, he said, "Oh, Harold, he's a sweet man. He's very nice." He said, "Unfortunately, he couldn't write his way out of a tin can." And I can see where if you're into like ambience and improvisation and whatever, and then as someone else, you've studied your whole life, like all sorts of composers from Mozart, Beethoven, Bach to Stockhausen and Bartok and whatever, that, something like this comes along and you're like, well, it's not really much now, is it? And it's, I think there's beauty in the simplicity. So I can sort of see the good in all sides of that argument. But anyway, I do recommend this record if you want something just mellow to chill out to and take yourself away from the world. And there's clips on YouTube too if you want to like just play Pensive Aphrodite once and see how long you stay awake. All right. It's a challenge. Game on. All right. Thanks, everybody. I tried to keep this a little bit more in the middle range today. My recommend is this. So, all right. Peace to you. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope you had a good Easter. I can't believe Record Store Day is already like 2 weeks in the rear view mirror here. And here we are, new releases. This was, I don't know if I mentioned the date, April 25th. 2025. Good Lord. That's a lot of 25s. All right. See you next time. Thank you. And I'll have more coming. Take care.